I'd like to call to order the December 12th, 2023 TPO Technical Committee. Do we have a quorum here this morning? Okay. Let's start on this end down here with Rich with introductions, please.
Karen Estes, Knox County CC Transit.
Kathy Olson for Jim Snowden, Knox County Engineering.
Patrick Berg, City of Oak Ridge.
Larry Gann, City of Clinton.
Deanna Flincham, Knoxville Commuter Pool.
Blake Sarden, Metro Knoxville Airport Authority.
Tanner Charles, Knoxville Area Transit.
Amy Brooks, Knoxville TPO, Knoxville, Knox County Planning.
Jack Wall, City of Loudoun, Loudoun County.
Catherine Baldwin, Anderson County.
Troy Everett, TDOT Region 1 OCT.
Chris Howley for Tom Clabo, the City of Knoxville.
Brian Boone, City of Maryville Engineering and Public Works.
Chico Messer, Blount County.
Durand Hacker, Blount County.
Dallas D. Armand, Knoxville, Knox County Planning.
Lars Smith, East Tennessee Development District.
Dakota Gentry, City of Alcoa.
All right, thank you. Dallas, do we have anyone participating on Zoom today?
We have James Temple from Sevier County and Zachary Coleman from FHWA on Zoom.
Okay, great. And welcome, everyone. Is there any amendments to the agenda today? Okay, seeing none. Moving forward, list of common acronyms being utilized. We're going to skip that today. Don't have all day for that. Number 2 on the agenda, the minutes. I think you were copied that in your packet. It's from the October 10th, 2023 Technical Committee. Need a motion to approve.
Move approved.
Need a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion moved. Item number 3, the 2020 Adjusted Census Urban Area Boundary and new TPO Metropolitan Planning Area Boundary. I think Mike Conger is here to fill us in.
Good morning, everyone. All right, good morning. So we're nearing the finish line of this item that we've been discussing with you all since early in the year. And so I'll be fairly brief with this discussion, but just to give a quick background of why we're here and talking about the urban area boundary and metropolitan planning area. This started back on December 29th of last year when the Census Bureau officially delineated the urban and rural classifications nationwide. And these affect several different federal funding programs as far as the population allocation and funding amounts and eligibility of funds. Also does impact both the highway and transit side of FHWA and FTA. There's also a direct impact to our TPO in that the urban areas determine our minimum required metropolitan planning area boundary. And so the sequence of developing that MPA is first you have the census urban area, then we have a process called adjusting urban area, and then finally the MPO planning area. So with the adjusted urban area, this is a process strictly through the Federal Highway Administration to allow you to smooth that, somewhat irregular census boundary shown in the dark purple on this map for transportation planning purposes. So it is an optional exercise that we don't have to do, but it does make sense in terms of maintaining consistency for roadway functional class of urban-rural designation, and also it include traffic generators and other, parts around the boundary that don't get picked up in the base census urban area. So I have a couple of examples to illustrate this. This is at City of Loudoun. You see the area in dark purple is where the census designated right by the interstate interchange at State Route 72. Meanwhile, you have all these industries up here and a large community at the Gulf Tennessee National that's not included. So we smooth that area in, the logical boundary being the river there, to include all those traffic generators within the urban area. Another one for the functional classification issue. This is the area around Governor John Sevier Highway and Alcoa Highway interchange. So you can see for some reason the interchange at John Sevier Highway is designated as a rural in this case. So you would have the classification changing as you go down Alcoa Highway from urban to rural. Also on John Sevier Highway comes in and out of the area. you can't actually see it, but the boundary is actually the center line of John Sevier Highway along here. So that would be obviously very ambiguous as to what the classification of John Sevier Highway is in terms of urban rural. So again, we just moved that all in to be consistent. So this does require final approval by the Federal Highway Administration Tennessee Division. Again, it was optional, but if they said if you do this process, they would like it to be done by the end of this year so that this can be incorporated into the statistics they develop, the urban, rural, vehicle miles traveled, other things for the next process for that. So we do need a motion to approve this by resolution. If there are any questions, I can answer those.
Is there any questions for Mike? Comments?
Yeah. This is separate, so two resolutions separate for the urban area and the planning area boundary, but in the same item together here. So we'll take them individually if possible.
Okay, we can take them individually. I need a motion to approve the adjusted census urban boundary.
Motion to approve.
Need a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries. Next item would be the motion needed, or excuse me, another motion here for the new TPO planning area boundary.
Right, well, I'll talk about that here real quick. I thought about making two separate items, but then just combining together. But so as I mentioned, the adjusted urban area leads into the planning area boundary. We incorporate that entire contiguous boundary within the planning area. The requirements that we have is that we must include the census urban area plus additional area anticipated to become urbanized within the next 20 years. So when we developed this boundary, we primarily considered where there's municipal boundaries. If part of a city was in but not completely, we would take the entire jurisdictional boundary into the planning area. And then also census block group boundaries to help kind of buffer that out. And usually those have logical topographic or, hydrologic features that they're associated with for a logical boundary. We do also, we've talked to you guys about the where Seymour and Telco Village are now independent urban areas, but they will be included within the planning area boundaries still moving forward. However, we do not anticipate any changes to the voting membership. We keep roughly the same boundary and same jurisdictions as we've had before. So in conclusion, our deadline for this is by the next long-range plan update, May of 2025, but obviously we need to know this boundary as we develop that plan. So really, we think it makes more sense to go ahead and adopt this now along with the adjusted urban boundary. There will be further discussions about, about how we coordinate with Telco Village and Seymour. They will receive their own allocation of STBG transportation funds, although we do not yet know that exact amount. But we'll have discussions to make sure how we coordinate that process. And then finally, we're still also looking at roadway functional class update system-wide with all the jurisdictions, and that will be handled in a subsequent meeting here to adopt those changes. So again, we do need a motion to recommend approval, and this gets forwarded to the Governor of Tennessee for agreement and final approval on the planning area boundary. So any questions?
Questions for Mike? Need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries, Mike.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, number 4, Title VI report. Doug, it's your turn. Come on down.
Thank you very much. I'm going to give you a presentation on the TPO's Title VI report. Why is required? The Knoxville, Knox County Planning and the TPO, we receive Federal Transit Administration funding, and as part of that process of receiving that funding, we have certain requirements that have to be met, and one is that we have to do a Title VI report every 3 years. It focuses on transit funding. However, the TPO must always consider Title VI outreach and the impacts in all of our federally and state funded projects in our planning processes. The Title VI report, I like to describe it as kind of a desk audit. And you know those accordion folders? They have a very specific checklist that they ask you for exhibits, maps, tables, and products. And so that's what we follow. A few times back, I thought, well, I'll try to put this in a very coherent plan where like a citizen who didn't know anything could pick it up and understand it. And I got killed by the reviewer at FTA. They did not like that at all. So the next time I said, I'm just going to follow exactly what they say. And then on that one, they said, can we use your plan as a best practice? So to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't know if y'all went and looked. If you try to read through it, it jumps all over the place, but we follow what they put in their circular. Here are the things we want, and we follow it exactly as they prescribe. The draft Title VI report was included on the agenda, and we also are responsible to Title VI report because we receive federal funds through TPOt. As their subrecipient, they pass on those requirements to us. So even if we didn't have the FTA report, we still have to consider Title VI impacts. So what does Title VI cover? It's part of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 that prohibits discrimination based on race, color, and national origin. President Clinton added to the circular environmental justice impacts, which were additional protections to minorities, and it added low-income persons. This is probably about the 10th or 11th one I've done. For many years, we did not have to bring it to the Tech Committee or Executive Board. It was kind of like I said, a desk audit. We completed it and we sent it on. About 3 times, 9 years ago, they said, no, you need to take it to your Tech and Executive Board and have them approve it. And I think what happened over the last decade or so, more and more Title VI lawsuits are cropping up. And I think some MPOs are like, hey, we don't even know anything about Title VI. We didn't even know we had a process in place. So I think people were caught off guard. So I think it's good that we let everyone know that we do have a Title VI process. Some things that the board must do or know about, we do post Title VI notices not only in our office but on our website, and they also appear in our major work products like the mobility plan and the TIP. We do have a complaint procedure, so anyone who believes he or she has been aggrieved and they want to file a complaint, we have a process, or they can go directly to FTA and file it. So far, knock on wood, we've never had a complaint. From time to time, we'll have calls where people are inquiring about this, but it turns out, like I had one a few weeks ago, where someone wanted to file a Title VI complaint against Knox County schools. So I just have to put them in contact with their Title VI coordinator. We also, if the board were to have non-elected committees, I don't know if some of you old timers here may remember we had an Urban Transportation Issues Committee, and the executive board appointed a citizen to be on that. If we were to have those, we have to be sure we consider the racial makeup of those committees. We also have to consider targeted outreach. A lot of time minority communities or low-income communities are underserved or they don't fully participate in the process. So we have to be sure that we understand that and that we do extra outreach activities to get feedback from those underserved groups. We have to monitor demographics, and we also have to monitor our funding distribution. I created this myself, and I kept going back and forth whether Title VI should be at the top and permeate all the way through down, or it should be the foundation at the bottom. But I'm basically saying, we have to consider Title VI and the way we do our outreach, our project selection, our major documents, and the way we distribute our funding. Now, this is the demographics, and this is going to change because you just passed a new planning area. But the Title VI report, it asks us to look back over the last 3 years. So we're using the existing planning area, and the planning area you approved won't be final until the governor signs off on it. But I thought I would share these with you because y'all are probably focused on the demographics of each of your own local jurisdictions. But from the planning area, the total population is 724,809. The white population is 84.9%. The total minority population is 15.1%. Of the minority groups, Black and African American is the highest at 6.5%. Asian is 1.7%, and then 2 or more races is 2.1. Everything else is below that. We are starting to see growth in the 2 or more races. I think the census has done a lot better job of explaining when people are answering those questions, how to answer those. So we're seeing more and more people select that as a designation. Some other things to know, our Hispanic population for our planning area is about 4.3%. That could be underreported. I think a lot of the demographers find that the Hispanic population they're a little bit more skeptical of government and doing surveys, so those are often underrepresented. We also have to drill down, and this is a question in the census, about our population that speaks some other language at home and that doesn't understand English very well. So for our area, that's about 2.2%. Those are people who speak some other language at home, could be, and then, but they don't understand English. Spanish is the most prevalent in our planning area. So of the Spanish-speaking people, about 1.3 don't understand English very well. And as I mentioned, we also have to consider low income. That's 13.8% for our planning area. And this is another one that a lot of people believe is underrepresented. As you do the census, you have to identify on there. And some people don't understand the poverty question and some people just skip it. So we feel like that's probably low for our area. Title VI also requires us that we have a very proactive public involvement process. The Tech Committee and Board approved our outreach plan in 2021, and it has the things, the required notices, the comment periods, and meeting policies. But if you'll remember, it had a big appendix of what we call a toolbox of all these things that we can do to help reach out more aggressively to some of the underserved communities. And a lot of times it's survey and social media, targeted ads, but we also work with community groups. I know we've worked with some of the Hispanic groups, the Urban League, and we've had them help reach out to the community with some of our surveys and stuff, and that's worked really good for us. We also can offer language interpreter services if we're notified in the past, and we actually have staff members in our office that speak Spanish, French, some German, and we had one other one, I can't think of it right now, it'll come to me, but it's from Indo-Asia. Title VI also requires us to collect certain census data on minority low income, LEP, which is the low English proficiency, and Hispanic populations. Also in our mobility plan, I don't know if you remember, Terry and Aubrey from planning came a few meetings ago and talked about a new priority population map we're using that looks at 27 different factors. We use that quite a bit. And we also have to, like as I said, monitor the way we're investing our funds. I have some examples of these maps. This is the minority map. Now remember, as I said, for the planning area, our minority population is 15.1%. So the FTA requires us to map any block group that has a minority population of 15.1% or greater as a minority area. And you can see a lot of that focuses on the center of our planning area, but we do have some in the outskirts in both Anderson, Loudoun, and Blount counties. For low income, that was the 13.8%. So any block group that has a low income population of 13.8% or greater, not quite as much in the central area, but you see a little bit more in the outer areas. So I think that's kind of interesting. Here's the priority population map, and that's the one that we did a tech report in planning, and it looked at 27 different factors from health, housing, mobility, education opportunities. And I've participated in several webinars from FTA and their Title VI group, and they really like this. This is kind of a new trend going across the country. A lot of agencies are looking at all the different factors, but they always remind us you have to come back. Title VI is minority and low income, so we can't forget our core groups. But they do like these, and we presented this before in our report, and they really liked it. We also overlay like our TIP and mobility plan projects. This is overlaying our TIP projects on the minority. So we can kind of see both in terms of how we're distributing projects and potential impacts. So those are just some examples. If you go to the report, it's like over 200 pages. There's a lot more examples in there. But I just want to kind of give you a flavor. What FTA wants us to tell you guys is that we do have a Title VI process and we are working on these issues. We do have to have the executive board pass a resolution that was in your packet. So we do need a motion to recommend to them to approve the Title VI report.
So any questions for Doug? Good job, Doug, explaining that. Need a motion to approve, send this up to the executive board.
Motion to approve.
Need a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item, number 5, annual listing of obligated projects for FY 2023. Craig.
Thank you, Jack. This is yet another of those required work products that we're developing on either an annual or a periodic basis. Obligated projects, this is kind of the end result when money is actually flowing out off of paper and onto the concrete, onto the road, which is what we want to see out of our projects. And that represents the lion's share of kind of obviously construction phase or the big hitters on projects, but you also have NEPA and design that also show up in this report. And a theme this year is that the preponderance of projects are certainly coming out of the TPOt program. An interesting anomaly that we see there when you look back, kind of this is a trailing history going back 10 years to 2014. For the first time, we obligated more projects, the green line there, typically on the bottom. This year, we are above that. So total obligations exceeded the money that was programmed. And what that means is essentially, you see the gray area where we're under obligating. And for this year, we actually over obligated, picking up some of that gray area backfill from some of the prior years. And what that means is essentially projects were programmed in 22 or earlier and actually obligated this year. So a little bit of an anomaly, but we did obligate a pretty high number there that you see, the highest amount that we have, $221 million. Were programmed this year, and obligations total $241 million. Another aspect there that we see, we know in the summer we had the largest project in TDOT's history in the state, Alcoa Highway project that led from Woodson to Cherokee, and that project was $124 million almost of federal funds on its own. So that kind of represents, again, a significant portion of those funds. We look at, again, programming authority. This is who is programming the projects in there. Again, the lion's share of that authority is TDOT. 87% of the money that was programmed in this year, $21 million, was from them. TPO funds, whether that be federal highway or FTA funds that were selected by this board, a small amount of programming in this given year, a little less than $600,000 in federal highway funds, and FTA funds $3.4 million. Direct allocation FTA funds $26 million, again for that total of $241 million that was programmed. Generally, projects, this year, a lot of the projects were obligated. We're in the first year of the TIP, so a lot of them were looking backwards. 47 total projects that were obligated, 41 of them were from the previous TIP and only 6 projects from the current TIP. You generally see that in year one, and then as you get into the cycle, that trend tends to reverse. Similar obligations by funding source, again, $211.7 million from federal highway, just under $30 million from FTA, and you see the various splits there again, very much weighted towards the NHPP program, 83% of funds. Transit and FTA flexes to transit cumulatively are 12% additional of funds. Those really take care of just about everything in this given year for that $241 million. By project type, if you just look at the general major category that the projects fall under, state route, $61.2 million, $148 million nearly you see there. Again, heavily weighted by that Alcoa Highway project. Interstate projects typically rank pretty high on this list. And if you look at that, we're at 87% of funds already there. Transit picking up most of the rest of it, and really not much else going on any local projects. That's just a little bit of an anomaly this year. I think that we just didn't have local projects that were queued up that actually led to construction this year. Again, since that's where you see the lion's share of the projects, we have a fair bit of projects that we anticipate will be moving forward next year. So I don't think this will be quite as skewed next year. And it's just an artifact of the way projects delivered in fiscal 23. TPO managed funds, of course, these are the ones that we really want to take a look at and try to get out the door, since these are managed here by this agency and the executive board. HIP, that's highway infrastructure programs. We had about $1 million obligated and about $2.1 million programmed, about 50% of that project. Those funds were obligated, LSTBG obligations, and flex. Relatively low number you see there, 26 million programmed and only 2.8 obligated. That's again, we anticipate that will typically is higher than that, and we would hope that that would be the case next year with some projects going to letting. TAP obligations, we had none programmed this year. Again, and that is a matter of, we actually, the agencies were doing a good job in knowing that they didn't have anything that was ready to go. So again, we anticipate that being different next year. CRP, that is a new program, carbon reduction program that came out of the new infrastructure bill. Didn't have anything quite ready to go. Again, with that being a new funding source, we would anticipate changes to that going forward, but also did not obligate any funds this year. If we look back kind of at the year in review from each of the programs that we're managing here locally, LSTBG, this is the big one, about $70 million in revenue, most of that which was rolled into it, $56.2 million, and the annual allocation of $13 million. The programming that you see, $21.2 million, very little of that was in fact obligated, so we have a significant rollover to next year, $48 million rolling over. In addition to those program dollars, and we have 23.6 programmed in fiscal 24. And that should say, that says roll over to 23. That is my bad. That is roll over to 24. My apologies. The TAP program, total revenues, $3.4 million. You see money rolling over that was not obligated in prior years. Annual obligation on that program is a little over $1.5 million. Didn't have anything programmed this year, but you see that wasn't, we aren't kind of continuing with the balance there. We're rolling over $3.4 million. In fact, all of that is programmed next year and hopefully will obligate. Carbon reduction program, a very similar size to the TAP program, $3.1 million in revenue, rollover in 1.5, which was the first year of those funds, fiscal 22. Annual allocation for the year, $1.6 million. Didn't have anything programmed, but in 24, we have 3.14 rolling over, and we have $2.6 million programmed. So starting to get those projects heading out the door. The current and previous reports are available on our TIP website, and the link to this report was available in your packet. Kind of one thing going forward, we know we've recently had cost overruns and a lot of discussion about that. That's one thing we'll definitely be looking at, monitoring that funding reserve and updating on cost overruns with regular updates as we go along, just getting started on that process. I will pause if there are any questions. And this is not an action item. This is for your information and will be similarly for information at the executive board.
Thank you. Is there any questions, comments?
Thank you
Good
so
job.
much.
Thank you, sir. Moving on, item number 6, Mobility Plan 2050 update. Mr. Conger.
Good morning again. And another item just for your information. But of course, we want to keep you updated with our process to update the Mobility Plan 2050. Several of you participated in our first Mobility Plan Technical Advisory Committee meeting back in November. We had very good discussion there, a lot of great input from you folks. But one thing we didn't get to that we had hoped to was to discuss the goals and objectives for the plan. Of course, typically we carry these forward from our previous planning update efforts. We update the plan every 4 years, and these are tied to the required 10 federal planning factors. You can see here on this chart how we've translated the 10 factors into our 8 goal areas. We have economy and freight, safety, security, more options, health and environment, preservation of places, equitable access, maintenance and efficiency, and then finally congestion reduction. So Obviously, we would have preferred to have this discussion in person and talk about these, but in lieu of that, we sent out an online survey for folks to fill out to ask both the rank order of these goals as well as if you had 100 points to assign total, how would you kind of prioritize those by a point scale? And we also asked, even more complicated, is that we have two different project scales, a small that we call within community and a large that we call community region. This is because it's always a challenge to try to score, a small intersection or sidewalk project against an interstate widening project. So those are two very different types of projects, apples and oranges. So this helps to try to categorize those better and to look at those goals that may be, you may have different goals for a small project versus a large, as we see here. We did also ask if there were any additional goal areas that we're missing and did not get any suggested new ones from that survey. So some quick results here. Again, about half of the folks responded, so this is not a total picture of the entire group. But if you look at that small project scale within community, this shows the before or current ranking, I guess, here on the left. And this is what the new ranking would be based on the feedback we got. This is color coded to kind of show you how that, changed. So I've got them sorted by the previous ranking 1 through 8 on the left and the new ranking I didn't change the sorting there. But my takeaways from this were safety and security is now number 1, which makes sense. I think everybody agrees safety is a high priority. It was number 3 before and moved up to number 1. Kind of the biggest other change I noticed is that congestion reduction went way up the chart. It was previously 7th and now it's 2nd. Other than that, a lot of stuff kind of stayed pretty much where it was, although I guess more options dropped a little bit as well. And so we would probably round these point values off when we get to the point in time where eventually this filters into the process where we get called for projects and score them against these criteria to help us prioritize project selection. It is, as we'll get to that later on, it is a challenging process to quantify all these things as we've talked about in the past, but that will be, for later discussion, probably in next meeting of the Technical Advisory Committee. So the large scale projects, this is how they shook out. And again, the same thing with previous and new ranking. My takeaways from this were that congestion reduction, as we saw in the previous one, has increased in priority. It's now number 1, I guess, even above safety and security, which is still at a high priority at number 2. The other big change I noticed was that the more options, again, this is looking at projects that improve bike, walk, and transit, those kind of things, alternatives to the highway side has dropped quite significantly from 2nd to 8th. So we want to confirm that that's again the consensus of the group as we move forward and discuss this further. So that's that. And then a quick update on our outreach efforts. We do have the website, knoxmobility.org. On there, there's a survey and an interactive map. This is a screenshot of the interactive map here. Hopefully you guys have been able to see this and share this out with your connections. As of last week, we've gotten 457 respondents on the survey and 168 points on the interactive map. And I think this continues to grow as we have spread the word out about this. So we, again, appreciate your efforts in helping us get the word out. You'll see on the interactive map, it's highly concentrated in Knox County and some in Blount County. So especially looking for folks in Loudoun and Anderson, other areas to help get some more feedback in those. In terms of upcoming outreach, we are looking at trying to do what's called a focus group of these, targeted areas for economic development, multimodal groups, freight, traffic operations. That will be an outreach effort to them. We're still kind of figuring that out exactly. And then our first round of community events, public meetings, we're targeting for late January, early February timeframe. So we'll need your help in getting locations for that. We want to get out and about to all the region for those as possible. So we'll be informing you as we nail that down moving forward. So this is just for information right now, and there should be another mobility technical advisory committee as well early in the new year. So any questions for now?
I have a quick one. Like, how long is that outreach website going to be available for surveys and such?
Right. Good question. We've got that question quite a bit. We haven't actually set a deadline yet. We want to keep it open at least through this month and then early in next year, leading up to that community round of community meetings. So when we do have a deadline, we'll make sure we publicize that out. But for now, we're just kind of indefinite for this point.
Thank you. Is there any other questions, comments? All right. Thank you, Mike.
Sure.
Item number 7, TDOT project updates. Dexter, come on down.
Perfect. Good deal. Thank you for having us this morning. I've got a quick PowerPoint presentation here that we'll run through and give you the current status of all the projects here within the TPO boundary. First project up here is a Knox County I-75 ITS project. This project is current. You can see there in parentheses the next phase for this project to be right away. So we were heavily in the PE phase, waiting for it to be identified in a plan to move forward. The next project is Knox County State Route 115 ITS work. If you remember the projects that we've done in Knox County on Alcoa Highway, we still have 2 that are currently under construction, the Cherokee Trail section and the portion to the south at John Sevier Highway. The Cherokee Trail section has all the ITS equipment and everything in that project. So you can see the limits there really start at the southern terminus of that project and continue to the Knox County, Blount County line. So in those 2 projects, we included pool boxes, conduit, all those kinds of things to support ITS, but the equipment and the fiber and all that kind of stuff will be let in this project. So it would be waiting to be identified for construction funding.
So on that one, like when you say ITS, what exactly are you guys installing? Like cameras, or is it signs?
Cameras and message boards.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
DMS boards. So this project is under construction currently. This is another ITS project that went to construction in FY23. The estimated completion date is in 2025. So we have ITS for I-140 from I-40 all the way down to the interchange at Alcoa Highway, current Alcoa Highway. Next project is the Blount Knox State Route 115 ITS project from the Knox Blount County line all the way down to I-140 or Pell City Parkway extension. This project would have to follow after all of the projects to widen and modernize Alcoa Highway are finished. So the Singleton Station project is in this limit. It wouldn't be identified for construction until all that work is complete. Blount County State Route 115. This is the project I just mentioned from Singleton Station up to the Knox Blount County line. This is what we term is the middle piece of the updates that we're doing to Alcoa Highway. This will be the last section to go to construction. All of Relocated has to be under construction before we can do this one. It is currently in right of way, and we're heavily down the road of purchasing the right of way. But again, the next phase would be construction. Okay, so this one is Blount County Relocated Alcoa Highway. We're doing that in 2 stages, if you'll remember. This is stage 1. We led it in August of this year and contributes to the obligated dollars that we discussed a little earlier. This is probably I think it was the 4th largest project in state history to date. So we got 2 of the top 4 right here in the TPO that were let this year. I think it was let for $156 million. I can't remember the number. But it's got an estimated completion date of late 2027 today. And then we would anticipate going to construction on the stage 2, which is probably the next project. It is going to construction on stage 2 to finish the Relocated Alcoa Highway on the heels of completing that other one. So this one is awaiting construction funding as well, stage 2. Moving to Pellissippi Parkway Extension, Blount County State Route 162. This project is currently finishing up a right-of-way reevaluation phase and would be anticipating going to right-of-way would be the next thing to happen with identification for construction fundings to complete it. Blount County State Route 336, Montville Road from Montville Station Road to State Route 73. This project is awaiting to be identified for right-of-way funding to move it forward. We're heavy in the PE phase. Knox Blunt Severe State Route 71 Chapman Highway. This project has been split into 7 child pens, so we have it on the map as one big project, but it's been split into 7 projects for future funding. We're finishing up the planning report for this project and waiting on one of those sections to be identified in a 3-year or in a plan, a work plan to move forward. Knox I-75 at State Route 131 interchange. This is the one we're converting to a divergent diamond interchange. It's in our work plan right now for construction of FY25. We're heavily in the right-of-way phase with probably 70% of the offers having been made. We have some deeds. We have a few that have gone to condemnation. I'm sure you are aware that this is all of the right-of-way that we're buying is commercial property on this one, so it's pretty complex. But we are still on schedule for an FY25 construction date on this one. Knox County interchange, what we traditionally call Sharps Gap interchange at I-640, 275, and I-75 northbound. This project is heavily in the planning phase. We're doing an interstate access request with FHWA, trying to get that IIR approved for the project, and once it's identified in the work plan, it will move forward. Knox State Route 1 at State Route 330 toward 2 or North Shore Drive. This project is also, we're past planning. We have a set of plans ready, waiting for it to be identified for funding to move into the right-of-way phase. Anderson State Route 170, this is the piece that's in Oak Ridge from State Route 62 out to Mountain Lake Drive. The project has a planning report that is finished and waiting to be identified for right-of-way funding before it would move forward in the work program. The adjacent project, the piece from Mountain Lake Drive up to State Route 9 and Clinton Highway in Claxton, has been identified for right-of-way in FY25. We're on schedule to meet that commitment, and once this one has a large number of tracks, we're thinking it's probably 3 years to buy the right of way, and then it would go into construction. So I'd say preliminarily we're looking at FY28, early 29 construction date. Blount County State Route 115, commonly referred to as the bypass project, which is south of the airport. This project is sitting and waiting to go to a public design meeting. We have a design ready, but we would do that right before we go to right-of-way. So we're waiting for right-of-way funding to be identified in a work program to move the project forward. Knox County State Route 162. This is the Sawway interchange out on Pellissippi Parkway. This project is also in the last stages of the planning report and would need to be identified for right-of-way to move the project forward in a work program. Knox County State Route 131. This is East Emory Road from near State Route 33 out to State Route 331. We have a planning report on this one and have done some preliminary design work. Again, this one is also waiting to be identified for right-of-way funding and a work plan to move it forward. Knox County State Route 62. This Oak Ridge Highway from State Route 131 to Shod Road is waiting to be identified for PE funding to move the project forward. And Knox County I-75 widening project from East Emory Road, State Route 131 out to Raccoon Valley Road, we have PE funding. I have some preliminary engineering work done. design work done, and waiting for right-of-way to be identified in the work program. Knox I-40 interchange, that I-275, I-40 westbound approach. This project is changing. We did a resurfacing project and done some lane reassignments that pushed congestion from right there in downtown out more towards 640 on the west end interchange with I-40 and out to Paper Mill Road. So we're looking to redefine what this project is, but it would need to be identified for right-of-way funding in a work program to really move forward. Loudon I-75, this is a 16-mile stretch of widening from the I-40 I-75 interchange out in west all the way down to Pond Creek Road to the south. I think, like I say, it's about 16 miles. We're splitting this project into 4 child pens, so it'd be 4 sections from interchange to interchange as you get down to that one. Again, we have a planning document in hand, waiting for full PE to show up for one of those 4 sections to carry it forward. I guess that's all of them. Do we have any questions? A lot of projects. Yes, Brian.
Hey, Dexter, I appreciate that update. I know none of us want to hear that a project's waiting for funding, or none of us want to say that a project is waiting for funding, but I know our elected officials sometimes have expectations. If you would just use that project south of the airport on 129 and 115 as an example, they'll remember that it was an Improve Act project, which sometimes folks go, well, that means the funding was secured, and that should be just a formality. So just talk about when you say a project's waiting for right-of-way, what that means.
Yeah, so you'll remember, I guess, as Brian is mentioning here, that the Improve Act passed in 2017, which is regular occurring funds that come to TDOT. We had a list of 900 and something projects that were listed as Improve Act projects. That didn't mean that the funding was in hand that day to do all 900 projects. It meant that the money that came from that act would go to those projects, and that work still continues. Those 2 Alcoa Highway projects came from Improve Act funding, which is our regular transportation or gas tax dollars that come in. So that additional money was used for those projects, and it will be used in the future on these Improve Act projects as well. And virtually every project in this list, matter of fact, all the projects in this list are Improve Act projects. That money just takes time to get through the system to do all these projects, if that makes sense. Yes, ma'am.
This is a request for staff. I mean, there's so much to absorb here.
Yeah.
Can we get this presentation emailed to us?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Everybody's happy, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, number 8, TDOT and FHWA updates. Is there any more TDOT updates? Troy?
I want to make sure everyone is aware that, we've been working diligently on the SPP process, and we had lots of submissions on that. We had $350 million worth of money that was put up towards these projects statewide. And we had, out of that $350 million for those projects, it was just $2.7 billion worth of need that was put in there. The reason I'm opening up with that is I want you all to make sure that you all tune in on the 18th. There'll be the announcement talking more about the 10-year plan and the SPP and the whole shooting match there. Our commissioner will be rolling everything out. Currently scheduled for 9 o'clock. Should be live streamed on that 9 o'clock Central Time, so I believe that's 10 o'clock our time. And y'all should be getting some more information on that.
Great, thank you.
I think Federal Highway was on the line.
Yeah, I was going to ask Dallas, does Federal Highway have any comments or updates today?
Yeah, we had Zach Coleman online who was going to provide an update to the federal certification.
Zach, are you there?
Yes. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thanks, everyone. So this is Zach Coleman, Transportation Planning Specialist for FHWA Tennessee Division. Just wanted to talk real quick. So November 30th, we officially kicked off the TMA certification review for the Knoxville TMA. So what that entails, every 4 years, FHWA and FTA are required to jointly develop a report of findings to ensure that the TMA's transportation planning process complies with federal requirements. So we kick that off on November 30th. Basically what that entails is we're going to be, looking over the prior certification review from 2020, looking at the recommendations from there, assessing kind of how the TMA has, worked towards those goals, doing a desk review of all the planning products to ensure, we review them as they come in. So we're just doing an overview. Right now, we're locking in the scope of what we're actually going to do a deep dive into. So we're working with, our federal partners and with the TPO staff on kind of locking in that scope, along with TDOT as well. So we're targeting the on-site visit for January 24th and 25th. So we're looking to kind of present to the executive board that morning, go a little deeper into the process. But we want to hear from you as well. So we're targeting kind of a 90-minute virtual office hours listening session for the following week, the week of January 29th. Just to kind of hear from y'all on the planning process, what's working, what's not, just kind of have an open conversation. So we're really looking at it as kind of an opportunity, a valuable opportunity for FHWA and FTA to, hear from y'all, assess compliance, and provide advice and technical assistance. So we're looking forward to the process and really appreciate, the TPO staff for all their work. So that's all I had.
All right. Any questions for FHWA? Comments? All right. Thank you for that.
Jack, I had,
Yes, sir.
I apologize.
No.
Two things I forgot I left off that you are going to be, you need to know. TDOT planning grants, they're coming back next year. We'll be rolling those out. Should be early January. It'll be a very fast turnaround on that. So those are the studies similar to what the TPO does on studies. We're also looking at those and provide additional funds for those. So keep an eye out for that announcement. And also the multimodal grant, which is very popular. It comes through and it helps you build some of these things that you're actually planning for. That should also be rolled out in January sometime. I would encourage everyone to go on to the Multimodal's website, TDOT Multimodal. They also have a plan that they recently completed that identifies vulnerable users. It was a study that they've been working on quite a while, but it is identifying hotspots in different areas that they definitely would like to see addressed as well with some of these grants. So definitely good information out there. If you have any questions, you can holler at me or directly out to the Multimodal Division for more information on that.
Thank you. Number 9, other business. Got an executive board meeting here in this room Wednesday, December 20th at 9 a.m. And then the technical committee will be meeting again in January 9th at 9 a.m. in this same room. Number 10, public comments. Any public comments today? All right. Well, moving along. I'd just like to say thank you to staff for everything you do for us and keeping us informed. And I'd also like to say happy holidays to everyone. It is that time of year, and ask for a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second. All right. We're out of here.
Merry Christmas, everyone.